back, Day Camp friends, to episode 13, lucky number 13 of the Day Camp Pod. I'm Andy Pritikin, Director of Liberty Lake in the Philadelphia suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm Sam Thompson from Crystal Lake Park District, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
And I'm Aaron Gluckstein from Camp Robin Hood, located in Toronto, Canada.
And we're Day Camp professionals joining forces to provide a forum for Day Camp pros to share ideas and best practices across North America and beyond. And we got our statistics back from our man, Matt, that we are in 17 countries and counting. Did you guys see that? That's right. International podcasters, ladies and gentlemen. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking with a unique day camp director, Laura Twiggs Johnson, about her cool camps, how she markets them, and her e-commerce perspective, and what it's like to create and supervise 7 programs simultaneously. But first, the Day Camp Podcast is brought to you by CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists, the fine purveyors of the best waterfront, water fun, and splash pad products in the world. Check out their website at crs4rec.com. CRS is serious for fun. And this Go Camp Pro podcast is also sponsored in part by the American Camp Association, New York and New Jersey, dedicated to preserving, promoting, and enhancing the quality of the summer camp experience. Their professional development includes the one and only Tri-State Camp Conference, as well as many other conferences that can be found at aca.nynj.org. And we just had an awesome time at the Tri-State Camp Conference, where we saw many Day Camp podcast listeners came up to us and told us how we enhanced their drive to work. Oh, that makes us feel so special. It really does. Because when I started out in day camping, I had an hour-plus drive every single morning. And when I won my first ACA award, I thanked Howard Stern for the mornings and Mike and the Mad Dog for the afternoons, because they literally did help me get through. So they didn't teach me that much about camp, so I'm glad that we can help you guys out too. So also, I want to say that at Tri-State, we were fortunate enough to be walking around in this really cool swag, which we're not wearing at this moment. We'll wear it the next time. But we got some Day Camp Pod hoodies that are just really, really styling and cool. And they come to us from our friend Ryan at Bunkline, which is bunkline.com. Check them out. They make awesome camp clothing. Liberty Lake's been using them for years. And yeah, they're going to be putting that awesome Aaron Gluckstein made Day Camp Pod logo on basically anything that we feel like it. So Aaron, I know it gets cold in the winter. You can get Day Camp Pod long johns. You know, those are so cute.
I already got them.
So today, like I said, we have Laura Twiggs Johnson with us. And Sam and I met Twiggs at ACA National at the now famous, because we keep talking about it, Michael Brandwine Day Camp Cafe at the lovely hour at 7 a.m. And Twiggs comes in with a barrel of energy and just a tremendous amount of ideas. And for someone like myself and Aaron, who run more traditional day camps, someone like Twiggs comes out of left field. Creating 7 programs, all of which under an umbrella of the leadership, what do you call it? The leadership what?
Leadership Academy.
Leadership Academy. Is there not a better word? Is not a better frame of framing camp than that? I mean, I think that's really brilliant just in itself, in how we call it that, especially in an area where people don't really understand camp, right? A Leadership Academy that goes, hey, I think I like that, right?
That's the plan. That's why I chose it.
Right. So we can't start talking to Twiggs before she has to tell her Twiggs story, because everyone that meets Twiggs, they go, Twiggs? Like, how'd you get that? And it's great when you go to ACA National in particular, much, much more than Tri-State. You walk around, you look at people's name badges, and you see some pretty awesome names of people. And so I was immediately jealous that Twiggs had such an awesome nickname, camp nickname. Twiggs, how did you get the Twiggs nickname?
Well, I started working at summer camp in 1997. And when I got to working at summer camp, I worked at a Girl Scout camp. And the tradition at Girl Scout camps is to have a camp name. And so I became Twiggs. I chose it because they're little and snappy and you need them to build fires, and I'm an excellent fire builder. But that was kind of like my public reason. My internal reason was that I already had a t-shirt that said Twiggs on it. And so I would have a t-shirt with my name on it already at summer camp. I would be that camp counselor that had their name on a t-shirt. So that is how I became Twiggs.
That's
and
awesome.
I continued to work at that camp for 6 years, and got my recreation degree and went on to work at another Girl Scout camp for 2 years, and then on to a YMCA camp for 7 years. All of these camps used camp names. And so there I was, Twigs, many years into my career, and ready to start my own business. And that's how people knew me, as Twigs. And I love being called Twigs. I love it when I hear kids shouting my name. I love it when my camp staff are like, Twigs, I got something important to talk to you about. Like, it's just, it feels good to be Twigs. And I feel like I live it. That's my name.
That's awesome. And, I think it's an awesome, we're going to be diverging all over the place, Twigs. So don't feel bad. We'll try to I write notes so I get back on track. Right. But I'm just curious about what Aaron and Sam think about the whole nicknames thing, because I've worked at camps that embrace the nicknames thing. And I've worked at camps that are like politically correct. And they're like, oh no, we don't want a kid to get a nickname that they say they like, but they don't really like, kind of thing. And I find it interesting that at Twig's original Girl Scout camp that she chose her nickname. I think that's a really cool way to do it. Because I think that most camps that do nickname, it's like some arrogant 19-year-old counselor that sort of bestows it on people. And that's where I think people worry. So I'm curious, Sam, Aaron, what are your thoughts on nicknames at your camp? Like, what's your policy, nickname policy?
We don't hand them out overall per se, but a lot of them do happen. And so they're pretty spontaneous. My real name is Sandra, but I've been Sam forever. And one of my directors, they kept shortening her name, and now it's just G. So the nicknames happen spontaneously with us. Mm-hmm.
Right. So all right, go ahead, Aaron. What are your thoughts?
No, in my situation, it's the same thing. We don't have we're never one of those camps that bestowed nicknames on everyone, but it's something that we try to embrace whenever possible. It's great. It's a great way to make kids feel like they fit in, and obviously it's not we're not getting our staff to designate names that they feel are funny, that might be offensive, but it happens from time to time. And I remember myself, just when I went to a residential camp for the first time, getting a nickname like the first day I was there, and it just helped. People got to know me right away, and it was a great way to help people fit in. So I think it's even more important in those situations. But I do love the idea. I haven't, I go by a nickname at camp myself, and makes me seem like a little bit less professional, a little bit more on the on the level of the staff. So I love that about it.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about camp being an extraordinary world, I think that if a kid can have a nickname that they like, that's it's like their camp persona. In a way, right? They sort of fall into that. So I know we didn't mean to talk about nicknames today, okay? But CampMinder, okay, that I use, software I use, has a nickname field for each kid, okay? So it's a Laura, Twigs, Johnson, 3 different fields, right? So that, and the same thing for staff. So my question is, if you're running camp, right, what do you use as their name on their name tag? Right? Like the name that's going to show up on the rosters. Do you use first name or do you use nickname? That's the question. What
we do at my camps is it has their staff's camp name. So we go through a time during staff training where the staff get to choose their name, and I reinforce with them that they should love hearing this, that it should be something that they want to be called by their children and their coworkers, and that it doesn't have to mean something to them, and it doesn't have to be about nature or sailing or mountain biking or whatever camp they work at. And it could mean something to them, and it just has to be something they enjoy being called. And that's the name we put on their staff name tag. And we do ask them to keep their last name personal, just so that it limits the ability for the campers to find them online. But they're allowed to share their first name, and it's something that we tell them to introduce themselves to parents as their first name. Like, hi, I'm Laura Johnson. At camp, I'm called Twigs. That's how we teach them to introduce them to, but the kids love calling them by their camp name. Most of the kids know my real name, but they all call me Twigs. I guess their choice. Parents call me Laura, parents call me Twigs. You know, it works synonymously.
Oh, it's amazing. You should never be Laura in my eyes.
And Twigs, the point that you make, I think, is a good one, because you know, the ability to get staff to not necessarily introduce their personal name to their campers, and maybe even create a second persona online that they can share with their campers after the summer. So, you know, if you're going by the name Twigs during camp and want to share that with your campers, it's not necessarily linked to your personal Facebook account, where, you know, things can get a little bit dicey. So you gotta, you know, in this world, we gotta be careful, obviously. And I like the idea of nicknames and no last names. And I think a lot of camps are on that same page.
Well, meanwhile, one of the people that we met at Tri-State, Adam from Jeff Lakes, Baranker, he's going to come on to one of our shows and talk about social media and campers and staff, because he has a very interesting view of that you should be sharing, you know, and you should be teaching people about branding and being careful and such with that. All right, so let's go back to the Leadership Academy.
Sam wanted to talk about
camp. Go ahead,
Sure, sorry. I was just going to say my staff have a really hard time when they become teachers transitioning in the school, because people will yell at them in the hallway, "Hey, Kyle," and it's like, no, I'm Mr. Mino now, you know. So that's usually been the hardest transition for them name-wise.
Oh yeah, especially if their name was like Bootsy or something like that. That was their nickname. All right, so back to Leadership Academy land. Okay, so you spent time at this YMCA, okay, being a camp director there. Okay, so then what got you to go off on your own with this crazy idea of yours?
Well, of course, I think most camp directors have this idea that someday they may own their own camp. I think very few actually realize that into, you know, actualize it. And so when my time at the YMCA camp came to an end, I had my former executive director was working at an organization that was a friends group of a 3,000-acre wilderness park called Warner Park, which is the crown jewel and pinnacle park of the Nashville Metro Parks system. And so he was like, you know, this is such a great place. And I'd been to Warner Park a lot of times. I love that park. And he was like, no one's ever had a day camp here. Someone ought to do that, huh? And I was like, you know, someone ought to. And so I put together a bunch of research around nature deficit disorder, about building a future donor base for a friends group by connecting children to a place that not only connects a family currently, but those children grow up with a true love and affinity for the outdoors, particularly attached to a place. And this is similar to what some people might see as a camp alumni development, but I was thinking more along the lines of helping to develop future donors for this friends group that supports the park. Just a little backstory there. The friends group provides donor support for restorations in the park, trail maintenance, new buildings, new programs, supports nature center staff at the park. All of these are free programs and accessible to the public. And they have fundraisers throughout the year. And so they have a direct relationship with the parks. And so by partnering with the friends group, I was able to gain access to the park to host my day camp program. And so we run our day camp program there for 10 weeks and donate $10 to the friends group for every camper who registers. And those funds go directly to Metro Parks, but through the friends kind of porthole into the park system.
That's amazing. So, yeah. So why didn't you just start with one?
I did in 2014. So in 2014, I opened Camp Warner Park. And the reason I designed it to sound like it belonged to the public park system is because my goal was to really create a program that looks and feels like a Metro Park program. So Metro Parks gets the image boost of having this value-added services to their constituents. They get to have this really high-quality run program that runs entirely outside of their budget, is professionally staffed and organized, and then there's donations that go back to the park. So I started with that in 2014. It was a big hit. We had that very first summer, we ran 4 weeks of camp with 186 kids. The park staff loved it. Metro Parks loved it. The Nature Center staff were happy. Parents loved it. So we did it again in 2015. And at this time, I was a full-time executive director for a totally different organization, running this on my like side project.
Oh my gosh.
And then after 2015, during June of 2015, I was into my third week of camp, and we were running, our goal was to run 8 weeks that summer, and we served 382 kids. So we more than doubled enrollment over one season. And I was like, why would I work for anybody else? Why would I do anything else? I should just do this. And so it was that June that I decided that I needed to replicate the program. And Metro Parks was already talking to me about offering it at 2 of their other nature park campuses. And the yacht club wanted me to run it at their sailing at the lake. And there was a need for teen programs. So I was like, all right, 2016, we're going to launch Camp Bells Bend Beeman, mountain bike camp, Teen Leadership Adventure, and Nashville Sail Camp. So I launched 4 new programs in the summer of 2016. And then in 2018, I added Grow Enrichment Camp, which was something I didn't have a goal of adding a new program for 2018, but the Grow Enrichment nonprofit group and my company are so aligned in mission. It was just one of those things that was just a yes, yes, yes. And it worked out perfectly to start in that order. And so this summer we're launching teen programs at Camp Bells Bend Beeman. And last summer we launched it at Nashville Sail Camp as well. So running those 7 programs in 6 locations.
All right. There's a lot in there to unpack. So just another thing that she didn't mention, but I've known Twigs for a few years now, is that while she was trying to get all those camps, the mountain bike thing and all that kind of stuff, I guess that was 2015 when you took the big jump, right? Or 2016?
Well, in the 2015 planning year to launch for 2016
right.
summer.
At the same time, she was trying to run adult camps in different locations in different states. Not necessarily in the summer, but before camp, after camp, and I think even some during camp.
Yeah, so one of the other programs I launched in 2016 was Grown Ups Camp. Now, like every entrepreneur and business person, not every idea turns out to be a wild success. But Grown Ups Camp was a wild success in marketing and an incredible response for the program. We were launching Grown Ups Camp in Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, and Nashville, all in 2016. And we had phenomenal traction on the website, just ridiculous amounts of website visits and Facebook reactions and interested attendance on our Facebook events, and so many people saying they were going. But when it came down to it, the grown-up camp market is a very fickle market. With a lot of non-committal, and the push for over that barrier to register was something I couldn't figure out. And so I would say that Grown Ups Camp for me was a fail at the end, but you win some, you lose some. I mean, I learned a lot from that experience, and I know now that if I'm going to grow a really successful business, I am running youth summer day camp. That's what I'm doing. Right.
I mean, the business mantra that I learned in business school was you do what you do and you do it the best out of anybody.
Yes.
Right. You can't be everything for everybody. Right. And the, interesting lesson about the grown-ups, how they talk a good game, don't they?
Oh, they do.
When push comes to shove, they don't commit. This is from a guy that runs a Renaissance fair for 3 weekends, right? And markets it avidly. And then, God forbid, there's 10% chance of rain. And I don't know if I'm coming this weekend. So yeah.
Did you? I don't know if anyone out there watches Shark Tank, but I saw some guys on Shark Tank that were pitching that idea. Apparently successfully making close to $1 million in revenue, and so I guess it can be done if that's the primary focus of your business. But it's so different than what we do with kids. I think that it has to take a different mindset.
Well, that guy on Shark Tank, that's all he did. Was that, right? Because he rented one of my friend's camps. And Twigs and I did discuss him. That was her competition at the time.
Yeah. And the reality of it is at the end of summer 2016, I'd launched 4 new day camps and was running my 3rd summer at Camp Warner Park, had a record-breaking year there, had, just an amazing camp staff that had worked so hard on putting everything together and had a wonderful season. And August was my launch date for grown-ups camp, and I was just wrapping up summer camp. And I was so terribly upset about, the failure for grown-ups camp, that I couldn't celebrate this incredible success we just had for youth camp. It's like, I just spent 18 years running youth camps. I should be celebrating this amazing success, not worrying about this new thing I'm trying to start out of nothing. And so that was kind of a big eye-opener for me to say, look, like, do what you do and do it well, do it better than anyone's done it, do it better than you did it this time, and motivated me to just concentrate my effort on youth camp.
Yeah, well, you're also a real business person, Twigs, and you're a perfectionist, so the affliction a lot of us have, sticking ourselves in the butt and not congratulating ourselves when we do a great job.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on a second, the whole nonprofit versus profit thing, private versus nonprofit thing, just because there's a lot of people listening that that run organizations similar to yours, that run, that have been in Sam's world, in the town rec program kind of thing, or the YMCA world, the JCC world, that's nonprofit. And then there's the private thing, which sort of, for whatever reason, people think that's like a great thing to like actually have to be the landlord and pay a mortgage and all those kind of things, which is not necessarily so true. There's a lot of money involved in that. So just tell us your thoughts, when you created Leadership Academy, about the nonprofit aspect versus the private aspect.
Yeah, what I have is a public-private partnership model. It's a little bit complex because there's the public entity of Metro Parks, and they're the property provider. So I operate all of my programs on public land, and then the private part of it is me. I'm a LLC, private owner. And then there's also a nonprofit side of it, which is my nonprofit partners. So every camp has a nonprofit partner that I coordinate with. Part of this has to do with my permitting process for the camp property, the park property. Some of it has to do with just access to children, or mailing lists and marketing, people with aligned missions for what I'm doing. And then, as we know, because we're camp experts, that there's a lot of idea like anyone can run a camp. But we know the incredible amount of detail and planning and organization and risk and knowledge that has to go into this, the background behind it. So what I do is, as a camp operator, I'm able to partner with a nonprofit that has access to land and children, ideally, or one or the other, that has an aligned mission for what I'm trying to achieve, and a relationship with parks. And we together, I operate the camp. I carry the full burden of operations and liability. I carry the insurance policy. I name Metro Parks as insured. I name the nonprofit as insured. I hire all the staff. I run the registration. I do all the marketing. Every aspect of the business operations is carried out by my company, Leadership Academy. And we coordinate on some marketing efforts, and I promote the nonprofit and Metro Parks through my marketing efforts and to my families. So I talk to all my families about all of the things going on at the nature centers every month, and the things that the nonprofit groups I partner with are doing, what they're doing to raise funds, sending all of my camp families to these nonprofits for their donations that they have to give. And so it's a win-win-win. And I did that by design because it's a really easy yes for Metro Parks to give a permit to their longtime nonprofit partner, who then contracts me to operate the camp program. And everyone wins. I'm funneling money back their way.
It is so darn smart, Twigs. It's awesome. I also admire the fact that you thought this through. Like, it sounds like something that sort of you would think it evolved because of necessity, but you actually thought it through. It's just amazing. Liberty Lake Day Camp is a private camp, but I formed a nonprofit, Liberty Lake Foundation, and that does enable me to do a lot, to get in the door for a lot of organizations, to create a lot of partnerships that especially with schools, right? That would initially, if I was just a private organization, I'd be like, oh, sorry, we only deal with nonprofits kind of things. And that's not why I have a nonprofit. I do it so that we can help spread the word of camp and get underprivileged kids to come to my camp. I mean, that's the main reason I do it. So another aspect of the nonprofit thing, of your partnership, which is awesome, is that you do scholarship kids also. Which is amazing. Tell us about that.
This summer will be the first summer that we offer scholarships for all of our camp operations. Each one of the scholarship funds is funded through fundraising that the nonprofit does for the camp scholarships. And then I partner and match some of that scholarship funding from my company as well. And so every camp has like a different fund amount, because they're all done by different nonprofit groups for all different amounts. But our goal this year, there's about $15,000 in scholarships for this summer to send kids to the 7 different programs, which will be awarded per camp, per application, based on need through our application process. We have, like, at the Nashville Sail Camp, the Nashville Sailing Foundation is the one providing the scholarship funding to send kids to camp. That aligns their mission. They are a nonprofit, have the ability to fundraise and generate donations that are tax-deductible gifts, which me as a private organization, and I'm not a nonprofit, I am not able to generate donations that are tax-deductible gifts.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So just one last question on the whole nonprofit private thing. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you start a nonprofit? Why isn't the Leadership Academy a nonprofit with a board of directors and all that kind of thing?
Andy, that's a question that I've been getting since day one. And I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a tax attorney, and I don't know all the answers to it, other than I've spent my whole career working in nonprofit industries, and I want to be my camp owner. I have a strong belief in the mission that my company has, and that is that when children play outside, I believe that it really increases their confidence, creativity, social intelligence, and grit, particularly when they play in collaborative and imaginative ways. And this connection to nature that develops a true love and affinity for the outdoors, and particularly these parks in these places, is so important to me that I want to be driving this ship. I also am not sure really how to create the nonprofit, but it is in my goal over the next 4 years to develop a nonprofit foundation for Leadership Academy, mm-hmm. so that I have the ability to raise money to send kids to camp. And not just my camps, but I think any day camp in Nashville. I'm not exactly sure how I want to form that and how I want it to work out, but I really felt that this public-private partnership was the way to go. And I want to be able to make a living, not just for the rest of my career, but also like into my retirement. This is my retirement plan right here, Leadership Academy. Right. And so, be able to develop a sustainable lifestyle for myself. Right. And I felt through having a for-profit company was the way to do that.
Yeah. It's one of those things, the grass is always greener. Like I look at, so no matter what you do, you always see the benefits of the other thing. But I think in general, for someone who worked for YMCAs and such for a while, like you did, you enjoy being your own board of directors. That's what it comes down to. Yes. Yeah. A lot easier to vote on things.
It is. It's really easy. My board meetings have, they're quick. You just go right through it, and agenda's approved.
So Sam, I'm just out of curiosity with the Crystal Lake Rec Department. Who do you answer to? Who are the people that decree the grand things in your world?
Well, I have 2 bosses above me, and then we also have a park board, and the park board is elected by the community. In fact, we have an election coming up in April. April 2nd. So we'll
Mhm.
see. We have about half of the board going out and new people coming in.
Uh-huh. Okay. Awesome.
So,
So, all right. So back to Twigs. For those of you
I
who
just want
aren't,
to add a
oh,
little
go ahead.
something to what
Yeah,
Sam
sure.
said. So Sam, from my understanding of it, Crystal Lake is a park district. So
right.
that's the difference between Metro Parks in Nashville is it's a park department. So Metro Parks department is funded through the city of Nashville, which includes the fire department, the water, the trash, the police, the library, the roads, all the things. While the park district is funded separately through its own taxing bracket, correct?
Exactly, yes. And so we're with the park department, sometimes you're the last person on the roster for getting money. We're a park district, it's for different programming, but it's all for these kind of programs and park maintenance. But we are lucky because we have the parks to do our camps in. So.
Yeah. And I wanted to clarify that specifically because my partnership model is designed specifically with departments in mind, because park districts have the ability to employ amazing people like
Yes.
yourself, where park departments are much slimmer.
Right.
So I got a question, Twigs. Is there, because you're all these things you're doing are in and around Nashville. Is there a city of Nashville Parks Department that has its own camp that sits there and it curses your name out? Because
Nashville Metro Parks does run day camp programs.
Mhm.
They have a dozen, maybe more than a dozen community centers that they run a day camp program at. They start registration for that in mid to late April. It typically is full within the one day.
Wow.
It is available for it's open availability for anyone, but the first day of registration is open for participants of free and reduced lunch, and they take anywhere from 30 to 60 kids at each center. And when you sign up for the whole summer. So it starts the day after school ends, and the last day of it is the day before school starts.
That is amazingly small. Sam, does your program close out similarly?
I just keep hiring more people. So we doubled last year, and I'm looking into that again this year, mainly because when it's not a rain day, we have lots of area and lots of ways to separate and spread out. So we're not as restricted as we are. On rain days, we have to go in the grade schools, basically, to have enough room to get them all inside. So.
I gotcha. So I was reminded before we started our podcast today that you could actually watch our podcast on camphacker.tv and on YouTube, because camphacker.tv has a YouTube channel too. So I just went to it really quick and looked at it. So for those of you who are watching us, you will see Twigs. And Twigs has raccoon eyes around her eyes, which she has for much of the year, because she mentioned she has a sailing camp. But Twigs' passion in life, besides youth development, is floating on a boat.
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us about your sailing, Twigs? Because I think it's actually pretty fascinating.
My raccoon eyes are particularly pronounced today. I've spent the last 4 straight days out on the Choctawhatchee Bay in Fort Walton, Florida, racing in the J22 National Midwinter Championships. So I race sailboats. I do one design racing, meaning everyone's sailing the same kind of boat. It's been weighed, it's measured, the sails are measured. Everyone has the same equipment. We're limited on crew weight. We have all these rules of things we're allowed to have on the boat and whatnot. So I do that for J22s, J24s, Melges 24s, Thistles, Lightnings, Lasers, Vanguards. There's a whole slew of them that I like to race. And so I travel around the country, and people are wanting to sign their own boat up for this race. And they're like, oh, I need 4 people and I only have 3. Oh, let's call Twigs. And so then I go there and I bring my laptop and all of my things to do my work. And I go there and I sail. And then usually I work at night. This particular week was spring break. and I had my cousin and her friends were visiting, and my best friend from high school, and everybody was down there together. So there wasn't a lot of working going on outside of sailing. But that's why, like, I do have some serious raccoon eyes right now. I'm all about the sunscreen. I have like the stick, you know, I'm putting it on all the time, and sunglasses and a hat.
Yeah,
I wear a
she's a fair-skinned young lady. So,
Right.
she's one of these people that when, you know, like me, when people come up and say, "Oh, I just didn't have time to do it," that you just want to strangle them because, you know, if you're living a life of Twigs, you know, she, her whole board of directors is her, right? She's her only full-time employee for these 7 camps, although there are people milling about behind her in her one-bedroom office, whatever. But yeah, this woman gets a lot done. So so that segues to my next little section about Twigs, which is that Twigs spent, was it 4 months this fall, 3 months in the Puget Sound up in Washington State, living on a boat, okay, while still registering campers, okay, hiring staff, looking at scholarships, you know, potential things like that, right? And it was funny when we were sitting, when Twigs and I were sitting at the table at the Day Camp Cafe thing at ACA National. One of the girls, at one of the young ladies at our table, I think she had a camp in like South Carolina or something. She had an awesome shirt that had the awesome statement that we love, which is, "What do you do the rest of the year?" Right? That everybody asks us. And we were joking about that. And Twigs looked at me with a very serious face and said, "I'll tell you what I do the rest of the year. I'm an e-commerce professional." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, I spent 3 months on the Puget Sound with my laptop, and I'm ahead of last year with my numbers, right?
That's right.
So the only way that you can accomplish that is to embrace technology and to automate things as much as possible. And Twigs has let me into her secret world, and I've seen, you know, the artificial intelligence of Twigs, and she does an amazing job of humanizing automated process, right? I mean, is that a good way to say it? So here I am, okay? So I'm just Joe Schmo in Nashville with a 10-year-old girl, okay? And I Google summer day camps Nashville, and boom, here goes the Leadership Academy right in my face. And I say, "Wow, that looks good." So I go to Leadership Academy, and it tells me, first of all, you heard Twigs professing how she feels about youth development and her view on things. She articulates it like a master artist on her website. She chooses her words really well, and it's very convincing. So then I fill out a little inquiry form, all right? And now I am in the Twigs rabbit hole, right?
That's right.
I am in the CRM. Right? It's coming at me now. So why don't you tell people a little bit about this process? A lot of people do this kind of thing, have it a little bit. I mean, some people just do them, they're their own little CRM robot, you know, but you really take advantage of technology today. So
I do. I would say that part of the luxury, and thank you for all those kind words first. Part of the luxury of running a youth summer day camp is that I'm focused directly on one thing. I'm not trying to run a bunch of year-round programs. My focus is entirely on youth and running day camp in the summer. So what I do the rest of the year is like what Andy said. I'm running an e-commerce website. I have 5 websites, but I'm running an e-commerce website. So I am using data to understand how people get to my website. So you're in your scenario there, Andy, you're in Nashville, and you have a 10-year-old girl, and you Google summer day camps in Nashville. Well, I started off by buying the domain Nashville Day Camps. Okay. I also own, 60 others for other cities that I've targeted that are similar, that I maybe will do that someday there. So I own Nashville Day Camps.
So hold on a second, just for the neophytes out there that don't quite understand what that means. So you buy this website, the URL, right?
Uh-huh.
And, so you own it. And then what you do is that you make it sort of a phantom kind of thing where it redirects when people go to that website, because it'll come up as a link here, click this thing, and then you click it and it takes you to the Leadership Academy.
That's right. And so I also pay for Google AdWords, so that when you Google summer camps in Nashville or day camps in Nashville, my camp hits first. Part of that comes through purchasing that power to be listed first, but some of it also is generated through the keywords that you've searched for. And so because I have the domain name and I've chosen these keywords in my ads specifically because I want people who are searching for these things to land on my website. So my main domain name is leadershipacademyllc.com. It's kind of a mouthful to spit out. So it's so much easier to say NashvilleDaycamps.com. Just go to NashvilleDaycamps.com. So when you go to NashvilleDaycamps.com, it lands on LeadershipAcademyLLC.com. Also, if you go to CampAwesomeness.com, it lands there too. So I thought that was fun, so I bought it.
By the way, we're talking about like $12 a year for you, for just so you understand.
Eight.
All right.
Yeah, I'm in the domain club. I've got a few of them. Anyway.
Once you hit 3 digits with domains, they start discounting you heavily, I guess.
So on my main website, NashvilleDaycamps.com or LeadershipAcademyLLC.com, you can see all of my camps. And we have worked over years to kind of cultivate what it is our websites are going to look like, and they're still in transition. But this is my main marketing tool, and when people click on an ad, they land on my main page, which has all of my programs. I have a big splashy picture across the front, and then all of my programs are listed there with a brief, like 1 or 2 sentence, description, the logo, a button that says learn more, and a button that says register today. The learn more button takes you to their main website for that page or for that camp, which has all of the details. The register today button takes you straight to my shopping cart. Hold
on one second.
Yeah.
She also has something that I do, which is as soon as you go to her homepage, a pop-up emerges, which says enter to win a free week at our newest camp, Grow in Richmond.
Yes, that's right.
And that is an unbelievable way to capture people's info, right? So
Yes.
Who doesn't want to win a free week at camp, right?
I don't know.
Nobody.
I use Rewards Fuel for that. That's the specific site that I use to generate that contesting. And so it's cultivates people to get onto my email list through my website, but we also share it through social media, and they get more entries to win if they share it through social media. So they get points. It's like if you sign up for the email list, you get 2 points, which is like 2 names in the hat. But if you then share it to Facebook, you get another point. Well, if someone from Facebook likes it and they sign up too, you get another point. So you can get entered to win over and over and over again through this like social sharing all on social media. And it's super easy to share, and it costs you your email address. Now I don't share people's email addresses. I don't sell their email address, but I do market to them. I would say our number one most useful marketing tool that we have is our email marketing, and I use MailChimp for that. It is the best in the breed for email marketing.
One sec, Laura, before we talk about MailChimp for a sec. So the points, the social media points. Okay, so I just shared it on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, let's say. Okay, so how do these points come back to me? Am I going to get a free hotel room at the casino? Like what am I getting?
Each of those points is an entry into the contest. So you got 2 entries just by signing up, and then you got an entry for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Is that what you said? Or Instagram, something like that. So you have 5 entries now. Nice. So let's say 100 people, there's 100 entries altogether, and that spans over, like 100 email addresses, but you have 5 points in there, and everyone has at least 2 points for putting their name in. So you have a greater chance of getting picked. And through Rewards Fuel, they will randomly select the winner and notify them. Does that generate the coupon code?
No, we have to set up.
Okay. We set up the coupon code for them to be able to register then after that. So it's pretty cool. It generates all of this we grew our mailing list substantially when we started using this. And because we're offering a specific camp, in MailChimp, you can tag the people in your list, and you can segment them into different parts. So, out of the I don't know, let's say 4,000 people on my mailing list. I know how many of them are interested in nature camp, how many are interested in sailing camp, how many are interested in mountain biking, how many want teen programs, how many are just general mailing list people. So when I send out my emails, I can send really specific and targeted messages to people who of that specific audience that will appreciate that message and more likely to react to it.
So there's Twigs sitting on a boat in the Puget Sound, okay, and all these emails are all these forms are being filled out on our website, and all these emails are going out, and work is being done,
all
right? And people are signing up, and God forbid they have a question or something, and they email, they message her. Twigs is responding in real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
So we are strategic about planning our camp dates towards the end of our camp season so that we can build our registration and launch. We launched in August this year, which is the earliest we've done it. Our camp season ended in early August, and we were launched by late August. I use really aggressive early bird discounts to encourage people to sign up and pay in full in the fall. Because my majority of my revenue season is late January through mid-July or mid-June, and a trickle off into July. And then there's this like void of nothingness, no revenue, but all the bills have come in for the end of summer. So like my bank account's emptying out, and so I need revenue. I have to still pay the phone bill and the liability insurance, that all of that stuff. So I really incentivize early signups. We did a $50 savings if you signed up in August or September, and $40 in October.
All right, well, hold on a second. People don't understand. People don't understand. Tell them what your normal thing costs. Like your stuff only costs necessarily like $350 a week, right?
That's right. Sailing camp.
So $50 is actually a significant chunk.
Huge discount.
Right. That's a big percentage.
It's a big percentage. And it's something that I probably won't do that forever. I'm hoping to wean down away from that as we've
Your
built up.
Reputation grows.
Reputation, right. Camp Warner Park is my only camp that I'm running right now at 98 or greater percentage of capacity. It will sell out. Sail Camp will probably sell out this summer too. So I'm not only trying to get more and more people to sign up and trying to grow this tiny little business that I started, but I'm trying to get them to sign up in August for something that they won't participate in until June. It's like I'm selling this idea of camp on my website and getting them to commit to it. So I have a few kind of strict things in line with signing up that early. I mean, we only take full payment, pay in full. Now we do refund for any reason, and that's not a problem. And we don't get a ton of refund requests. But my shopping cart software has turned out to be, it's something I've not been exuberantly happy with. In fact, generally kind of disappointed in, until I started really shopping around and really understanding what is out there. And what I use, which is Configio, is it offers something that nothing else offers, which is automated and triggered emails. And this has been the reason I can sit on a sailboat in the Puget Sound in the month of September and sell 60 registrations to camp, and have my customers be able to experience all of this online, choose their camp, make their payment, get a nice email back that says, thank you so much for registering. And, it's totally automated. And then this year we're also offering payment plans for all of the camps, which is 100% automated through my shopping cart system. It sends them an email if they sign up in September and they choose a payment plan. Well, this year we didn't offer them until November, I think, is when they started this year. January 1. Oh, and January 1. My guy, David, who
Yeah.
sets it all up for me.
Shout out to Dave. So when
to Dave.
So when you guys go to Twig's Leadership Academy website, or as she said, NashvilleDayCamps.com, all right, take a look at that website. This is a smart website. This is like efficient WordPress right here.
It is a WordPress.
Yeah, no, you could tell. But it's laid out so just logically and easy to navigate, you know, and you know, from Twig's point of view, easy to fall into a rabbit hole. Right.
Yeah. Well, and David's the one that does all that. I'm like,
right.
I want this and this and this, and I want it to do this, and I'd like it to do this. And then he goes in and manipulates all of this to make it happen. And it has taken some real manipulation in some cases, particularly with my shopping cart software. But this payment plan thing has been brilliant. And it's a lot of work on his part to have set it up so that it does this. But if you bought camp on January 1st, you know, it says, thanks for buying camp. You've paid this much. Your balance is now this much. You can log in anytime and pay whenever you want. But 30 days out, we're going to charge you. So then 90 days out, we send them an email and say, hey, just reminding you, you have a balance. You can pay it here, click. And then 60 days out, we do the same thing. And then 45 days out, we do the same thing. And then 31 days out, we do the same thing and also say, by the way, tomorrow we're going to charge your card on file. And then on the 30 days, we charge your card on file and send them their confirmation email of it being complete. And all of this is done once they make the initial purchase and choose payment plan, they get funneled into this triggered email hole.
I love the way she says, we do this, and then we do this. And like there's a bunch of little robots, like in some like satellite doing this. They ain't doing it. That's the magical part of this. Like this is like a glimpse. Part of it. This is a glimpse into the future. Like, you know, people are all worried about $15 minimum wage and this and that. It's just, it's all going to be automation. Like,
click,
you know,
click.
It's so darn fascinating. And one last thing about this, because we could talk about this forever. I mean, Twigs uses like so many different third-party softwares. And
I do have a lot of platforms.
Yeah, that's like those are your employees, basically.
Yeah.
Those are your employees. And they cost like $150 a year.
Yeah, MailChimp cost me maybe less than $35 a month. And I would say that I have the majority of my sales from MailChimp. If I have a month where I make less than $5,000 off my website, that was a low sales month. So $35 is well worth it.
So is it MailChimp or is it Configio that sends out the automated emails to the people who are already enrolled?
That's Configio.
That's Configio. Because that is fascinating. I think that a lot of camps out there, certainly speaking for myself, we do a great job of contacting and staying in touch with people, and then they sign up. And then there's like this void, right, of communication until like summer approaches, and then it's like, here's your stuff. Here's your information, right? Whereas Twigs is very intentional about keeping that conversation going.
And you know, David every week pulls the lists from Configio and has to manually upload them to MailChimp. I wish those two things talked. And we actually are building kind of a bridge between those with the new program called Capsule, which is our new CRM software. So Capsule is going to be so amazing that we will be able to see that, Andy, you with your 10-year-old daughter in Nashville, when you Google search that, we will know that I already know if you came to my website through a Google search, or you found me on Nashville Parent Magazine, or if you clicked through the display ad on Nashville City Moms blog, or you put in one of my custom URLs. Let's say you heard my ad on Fish FM, and you went to Nashville Day Camp /Fish FM. I know where you came to my website from. And I know if you accessed it from your phone or your desktop. I know if you were on your phone, if you had an Android or an Apple. We already know all this. Well, then if you fill out that contest software and you sign up through Rewards Fuel for that session of camp, then you've landed in my MailChimp account. And I know then if you have registered for camp and when you registered, and then next year you are automatically on my leads list for campers to secure for 2020. And so all of this is, I'm trying to integrate my Configio shopping cart, my Google Analytics, my Google AdWords, my MailChimp account, and my rewards fuel through a program called Capsule. And David's building that now. And there's David right back there.
Yeah, we should give David's contact info out because he can get a lot more clients after this podcast.
Yeah, he's brilliant at what he does. You know, and we've worked really hard to make the process as easy as possible for the parents, because they're the ones that got like a zillion things going on. You know, I'm over here, a party of one, you know, sitting on a sailboat in the Puget Sound, as you said, you know, and the parents are the ones who are trying to plan this 10 weeks of summer, have a diversified experience for their children, make sure that they're getting to go do this camp with their friends and this camp, and they heard this camp is the best camp, and this camp is, you know, the sailing camp, and they want them to learn this new skill, and they have got their spreadsheet and all their different ways that they're trying to sign their kids up, and all the different usernames and passwords for each one, and all the different health forms and permission forms and everything. So I'm just trying to make my sign up process super easy. Click through, tell me your date, tell me your kid's name, pay for it.
But in order to do that, you put a lot of thought into it. And I know a lot of my colleagues, they get upset with CampMinder or whatever their software is because it doesn't do this and it doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. Well, none of these softwares that Twigs use does everything. They all do one aspect of it. And what you have to do with your database company, whether it's Configio or CampMinder or whatever, is get the API so that you could link in with all these other softwares and that changes can be made, right? You know, at Tri-State, I gave a session on summer communication, which was one of our earlier podcasts. And there was a camp director there from Mohawk Day Camp, my friend Adam Wallach, who talked about his unbelievable app, which links in with his database software because he knows what that software's limitations are, you know, and now the app does all the communicating to all his families. And yeah, so
did he build that?
He built that with quite a pretty penny, which you could do when you charge almost $10,000 a kid for day camp.
I'm short a few pennies there.
Yeah, it's an extreme version.
I think the key to all of this is that, you know, just the idea of simplification, right? Like for all of us, we have, you know, a minimal staff during the winter time, and being able to provide all the contact points that we want, and all doing, you know, taking all the necessary steps to just really show the parents that we care and that we value what they're you know, what they're going to be a part of. Being able to automate that so that we can, you know, manage it with a skeleton staff is important. And you know, and just also making the process, I think Twigs, what you said just about making the process as simple as possible for the parents. I think that a lot of us, especially when we have traditional camps that have been around for a long time, we've been doing things a certain way for so long, even though we have new software, you know, just trying to find ways to just simplify the process so that we're not using our new software, but doing things the exact same way. Like, you know, you have to still print the registration form that you generate online and mail it in, or whatever it is. I think just thinking of really using these things, and obviously there's a million types of software, maybe not actually a million, but probably 10 million software pieces out there that do all these things that we want to do and integrate with each other. But you know, doing your research and coming up with the best possible solution for you, and whatever's simplest, I think, is the best.
Well, no, simplest for the end user. That's what you're saying. Yes. Because all the things Twigs is describing, I mean, I almost passed out 3 times with her talking to, you know, during this podcast, you know, because it's so complex on so many levels. But in the end, when you go to her website and you get into her rabbit hole, it seems exceedingly user friendly. And
yeah, I should have specified that, because I've researched tons of these things, and you can get lost. And even if you have a good understanding of technology, you know, you can get really lost in these things. And a lot of these services offer free demos, and if they're willing to take the time to talk to you, you know, in person or you know, online about what they do and how they can integrate with what you're doing, I think you should take advantage of that, because I've done that a few times with some of these services.
I found out that on our software, they have an option to upsell which I didn't know about till this year. So when I set up all my codes, which for 10 weeks you can do camp and you can do before or after or both. So that's a whole lot of codes for the parents, which is very annoying. So now I can link them. So if they sign up for camp, it will pop up. You might also want to register for one of these 3, and then bing, bang, it's all right there together. But I was so fascinated by that one little nugget that all your stuff is so interesting.
Yeah, and that's great stuff. And one of the other things that Configio does is these triggered emails on an abandoned cart, which is e-commerce speak for someone went in, created an account, picked things out, left it in their cart, and never came back and paid for it. They're not registered. So that's abandoned cart. So 3 days after they've left it there, Configio sends them an email that was like, hey, we saw that you were interested in camp and you've almost signed up. We'd love to have you at camp. Click here to finish. And at 5 days, we send them another one. So I mean, that's like the low hanging fruit of marketing out there is like, these people have self-indicated that I want to come so specifically that I told you who I'm going to send and when. So we've got to get back in and get those.
And they didn't say no until they hit unsubscribe. Until then, they're live. Right?
They're live. Yeah, and there's to speak to a little bit about what Aaron said is you can get caught in this like overwhelming complexity of all these things that are out there. We have really worked hard, and I say we, is that this means a lot to me. Every dollar I spend in marketing, that first 5 years I was operating was literally written out of my personal bank account from selling my house to pay to launch this business. So it was so super important to me that every dollar was spent in a smart way. So we were very, I have Google Analytics on every single one of my websites, which David set up. These are things I could learn to do, and I find it so incredibly valuable to hire an expert who can do it 15,000 times faster than me and much more efficiently and so much better. But we create our marketing plan in September and October. So we've decided our dates, we've built our registration, we're already launched and running, and we're developing our marketing plan for the next year. And then every August we sit down, we pull all of the website analytics. So this coming year, I'm paying for advertisement on Nashville Parent Magazine, Nashville City Moms blog, KidsOutandAbout.com, which is new this year to me, and Nashville Scene. And I'm choosing those because specifically I have referral traffic on my websites from those. Most of my referral traffic is from my mailing list and from my friend partners. But these are the paid places. I didn't choose to renew my paid ad with Nashville Ledger or the Green Hills News or some of these others where I had other ads and they didn't go. I just didn't have any referral traffic. I also am super specific about using unique URLs for everything. So when I have a school that wants me to donate a free session of camp to their PTO auction, I happily do it. And I create a flyer for them and I create a digital ad for them to share on Facebook. And I tell them, send them to this link, which is NashvilleDayCamps.com, Camp 2019/Edmondson Elementary. I know that those people that came to my website came through that link. And so viewing the marketing data and analytics helps me make the decisions that I make to create my marketing plan. So I keep doing what works and doing more of it and stop paying for things that don't work.
Right. Data is important.
Data.
We have to stop only because
okay,
we can't go on forever. And all I can say is that Twigs goes to ACA National every year. It's in San Diego next year, New Orleans after that. Ooh. Come say hi to Twigs. All right, she is one of the friendliest, most forthcoming people, as you've just noticed. Loves to share. And is super interesting. And I would like to buy the rights to the Lifetime movie on Twigs.
Well, that's how to sell.
because you are fascinating. All right.
Thank you.
So Twigs, we're going to do a thing where we come up with a cool little day camp program tip of the week. All right. I don't know if you've heard that before on our podcast. So you could think of one while I tell you that this day camp program tip of the week is brought to you by our friends at A.M. Skyer, the leading insurance broker for the finest camps in America. For 99 years, A.M. Skyer has been a strategic partner with summer camps, ready to support any needs arising from PR, legal, health, facility, and more. Experience the A.M. Skyer difference. And thank you, A.M. Skyer, for sponsoring pretty much everything that ACA New York and New Jersey does. All right, so I am going to start off with something that I saw on Twig's homepage in one of her rotating pictures, because it's something that's really huge at Liberty Lake Day Camp. And it is Foursquare, which we call Hullaball, long story. But Foursquare and other playground games are so important nowadays more than ever, because kids don't generally play outside. And recess, you know, at my kids' school, when they were last in like elementary, middle school, like it was 20 minutes a day, only on days where the temperature was between like 55 and 78 or something. So they just don't get that sort of playground kind of experience. And Foursquare is one of these games in which the kids can invent the rules. There is no normal set of rules for Foursquare. It's indigenous to whatever camp is running it and what the standard is there. And it's one of those games where the kids can change the rules, because the way they do it at my camp, which is the way they do it a lot of places, if you get to be like the king square guy, if you're in charge, then you dictate how the rules are now. Right? And you can make them as silly and as crazy and ludicrous as possible, which is what I see constantly. I'm a Foursquare purist. Okay. I think that they bastardized these rules, these children. But anyway, at Liberty Lake, we made Foursquare courts that are gigantic. Like they're literally like the boxes are like 8 by 8. And that's just the individual boxes, 4 8 by 8 boxes. So we could put like 2 or 3 kids in a box. And you can play that way also, which is super cool. And you can use all different sized balls and all that kind of thing. So anyway, for those of you who are like, oh, everybody loves Gaga, everybody loves wiffle ball, everybody loves wall ball. Yeah, well, Foursquare should be in that conversation. All right?
Absolutely.
Passing it on to Sam.
All right, so mine this week is Pac-Man tag. And all you need is the sticky colored tape, and you can do it on grass or you could do it in a gym. And the kids have to stay on the tape. That's the Pac-Man little maze chute, is that line. The Pac-Man himself has to stay on the line. So as he tags people out, and usually, you know, you have him put on a yellow shirt, so you know he's the Pac-Man. As he tags people, you can either have them be out and go away, or you can have them sit down where they got tagged. Now they're a roadblock, so anybody past them can never get tagged and can never get out again as he's going around tagging people on this maze of lines. So, but
Awesome.
you do have to explain Pac-Man. Nowadays, they don't know what Pac-Man is anymore.
Oh, that's right. There hasn't been a Pac-Man game in an arcade in a long time. Good point.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Before we leave Sam, we cannot forget to plug the Mid-States Day Camp Conference.
Yes,
Right.
April 1st, Mid-States is April 1st through 3rd. April 1st is all day for day camp. Registration is still going on, and you would contact midstates.il.org, I believe. So they'll get you all set up.
Gotcha. All right, Aaron.
So just a quick note about Pac-Man. When I was just at the Tri-State Conference, I did see in one of the casinos a giant, full, like a big screen TV sized Pac-Man game that was in the middle of the casino that you could play. So it's you know, it's still popular. It's vintage, but it's popular, and it was very cool. Anyway, so for me, something that I wanted to mention is Tough Mudder. I don't know if this is something that exists outside of Canada or not. But
yeah.
Andy's nodding yes. So for those of you that don't know, it's like a sort of like big athletic day that people sign up for. You challenge yourself to do all these different things that, you know, both take a toll on your body and your mind, and it's almost like military style training, and it's become pretty popular here. And so what we did for the older kids, a sort of a variation on our low ropes course, was to combine a whole bunch of the low ropes activities into a challenge, and get teams of people to run through the low ropes course, obviously doing it safely, and we go over the rules ahead of time, but to go from, our what we call the tension traverse, which is the tightrope type thing, different Mohawk walk, some people call it, from there to a low initiative wall, over that wall to to a number of different elements, and I won't name them all because they're called different things at different camps, but we go through about 8 different low ropes elements, and sometimes the Mohawk walk becomes like that electrical wire that you get shocked by, and Tough Mudder, not actually electrified, but we just do it, and it's been a great way to sell something that campers who have been with us for a long time, they've done low ropes over and over again, just a new way of doing it, and it's been fun and popular for our camp.
Yeah, kids love competition. So
yeah,
good way to throw it in there. All right, Twigs, you got something?
Yeah, we're on a programming theme, I can tell, right? Or is is tip of the week always about programming?
We try. Soon we're going to run out. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Here's a look into the future. Aaron and I are going to be out, and Sam's going to have like 500 more to go. That's a look into the future. Right.
Okay. So last year we developed a rock throwing range, and this was really simple. I just got a few buckets of gravel, and we said, all right, you can throw them this way into the woods, and it was awesome. And we hung up some old pots and pans I bought from Goodwill and painted some of them different. There was yellow ones, red ones, blue ones. We had no rules other than throw this direction. And the kids made up all these incredible rules, similar to what you're talking about with Foursquare. They're like, oh, the red ones are worth 10 points and the blue ones are 2 points. And you can throw, each person gets 10 rocks to throw at a time. And then it's somebody else's turn. It was all child-directed rule making for the rock throwing range. But kids love throwing rocks, right? And
yes.
So we just like, here's some rocks, throw some rocks. And we gave them some things to throw rocks at, and they loved it. And it was so simple. And I think that 2 bags of gravel cost me about $6.
That's awesome.
All right. You are the second guest on the Day Camp Pod to talk about rock throwing, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that other one.
Look, it's great. I reiterated. I told her, but I did it at my camp. It was awesome. Kids love it. Kids don't know how to throw rocks because they live in a politically correct world where parents are like, put the rock down. You're going to kill somebody, right? And not only that.
We throw rocks at people or animals, right. Or, but we throw them in the woods. Right. Yeah, I say sticks, buckets, rocks, and a hose, and you're good. You're fine for the whole week.
And what I told last time, I mentioned that people that have bodies of water, like Sam and I, that kids don't know how to skip rocks. And actually teaching them how to skip rocks, to me, is an essential life skill that is being lost on this next generation.
You just filled an hour for every day of the week, at least.
Yeah. Kids love throwing rocks. All right. All right. So anyway, that's it. One of the most information-laden day camp pods in the history of day camp podcasting. Thank you, Laura Twigs Johnson, for being so awesome and just telling us all this great stuff.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Aaron, Sam, and Andy. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. We want to also thank our executive producer, the Camp Maverick himself, Mr. Go Camp Pro, Travis Allison, for helping us get this show on the road for you. And again, our generous sponsors, ACA New York, New Jersey, Commercial Recreation Specialists, and AM Skyer for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. And again, Bunkline for the awesome hoodies. All right. The show notes And the other episodes are located at daycamppodcast.com, at Camp Hacker TV, on YouTube, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify. I don't know. All right. So if you don't want to miss an episode of Day Camp Pod, subscribe on all those things. All right. And they'll just come into your nice little smartphone, lickety split. All right. And we're going to be back real soon with our next topic. Hopefully it will be staff training part 2, where we're going to talk about keeping your staff around so that when they sign on the line and it's dotted, they actually show up on the first day of camp. So thanks for listening. This has been the Day Camp Pod.